This is an emergency that is developing as we speak. Those numbers of several hundred thousand to over 1 million Uyghurs, 5 to 10% of the Uyghur population, disappearing into these internment camps are based on estimates from January, data that came out in January about what happened in the previous year. We've had another 6 months. People have continued to disappear, and very few people, usually sick people, have been released. We see new camps being built in the satellite imagery, and we have new advertisements from the Xinjiang authorities asking for construction companies to build additional camps. The last one to appear is about a 400,000 square foot facility that will probably come online sometime between September and December. This enormous and growing scale is important not just in an absolute sense, where we have the feeling that, well, maybe if it crosses a big enough number, the world will care, but also as a proportion of the number of community members who disappear. This is something you can see on the streets in southern Xinjiang, in the closed buildings, the closed shops, the closed houses of people who've disappeared. You can see it in one county in Kashgar where 18 orphanages have been built, according to a Financial Times report, in the last year alone to house the children of those who have been sent to the detention camps. My second point I want to make is about the goals of these camps, which is something that was asked about earlier. These camps serve multiple goals. They serve the explicit goal of, which many Chinese officials seem to really believe in, of changing the way people think through force, of purifying them of supposedly bad ideas and inculcating a love for the party and for Xi Jinping. They also serve to remove certain demographics from the population, especially 20 to 40-year-olds, which police have explicitly targeted. And of course, they serve as the background disciplinary threat that upholds the totalitarian micromanagement of Uyghurs' everyday activities and cultural expressions. But the frightening thing is that what we know from history is that when you get large detention systems that are operating in legal gray zones, or in this case, perhaps even an entirely extra legal zone, there is a lot of room for improvisation on the part of those who are running those camps. So the frightening purpose, the most frightening purpose, is the one that hasn't occurred yet. And while right now torture and deaths in the camps seem to be happening at pretty low levels, that can change. And in fact, I don't think we can rule out the possibility of mass murder. The third point I want to make, and I'll do it briefly, is that the camps are not the only problem, although I've emphasized it here because they're easy to summarize. If you take them out of the picture, we're still looking at one of the most oppressive police states in the world with, as Senator Rubio mentioned, a system of racism very similar to apartheid. My last major point I want to make is about the deeper causes of this. This is a colonial settler operation, and it is, contrary to some opinions, not explicitly about religion per se. The Chinese Communist Party, despite being avowedly atheist, has a great deal of tolerance for what they see as Chinese religions being practiced by ethnic Chinese. When it comes to a foreign religion, or a religion seen as Chinese like Buddhism practiced by non-Chinese like Tibetans, that story changes. And it becomes even more intense when it's Islam, because the Chinese Communist Party over the last 20 years or so has adopted American and European discourses of Islamophobia, which they picked up largely through cooperation with the US global war on terror. Because of that, this is a deeply entrenched worldview of Chinese officials behind this. And I don't think, for that reason, that we can convince Chinese officials to change their path based on data about how it will improve the internal situation. I think instead they think this is working. So we need to make this not a domestic issue, but a global issue.